Love, Lost, Rebirth, Alive. Blue Dolphins. The novel by Makāula Nakae. Chapter 2. Night Tribes. Episode 7. Mahina Piha, Full Moon. With the bass of the club mix still thumping in the small cabin, Jim pulled into the parking lot of Hanalei's condominium. "What time are we heading out?" Jim asked, his posture lean and eager, already vibrating with the energy of the night to come. "Probably around 10 or 10:30, Hanalei replied. "Shall I come pick you up?" Jim offered, but Hanalei shook his head, explaining it would be easier to just grab a taxi rather than have Jim fight the Waikiki traffic twice. Jim, however, seemed to have already made up his mind, waving off the protest with a confident grin. "All right, I'll call you around 10 or just swing by at 10:30. Until then, get some good rest." Hanalei stepped out, watching as the red convertible zipped away. As the sound of the engine faded, the silence of the afternoon rushed back in. He took the elevator up to his apartment, the solitude hitting him like a physical weight. He kicked off his sandals, the salt-crusted flip-flops hitting the floor with a soft thud, and dropped his swim bag beside them. The apartment was a study in transition. A Macintosh G4 sat on the kitchen desk next to a printer, while a lone white sofa anchored the living room. Moving boxes, half-taped and scattered, served as the only decor. The bedroom held nothing but a queen-sized bed and a small TV. The bare white walls, void of pictures, paintings, or life, made the space feel like a gallery waiting for an exhibit that might never arrive. Hanalei docked his iPod, and the room began to fill with a steady, synthetic pulse of club music flowing from small white speakers. He picked up his cell phone and dialed Manau. "Hey, Manau, have you got your volcano party tickets yet?" The event was more than just a party. It was a massive fundraiser for a non-profit supporting AIDS patients on Maui, the first of its kind to hit the islands with such scale. "No, not yet. Have you?" Maneo's voice sounded distracted. "Yeah, I got mine yesterday." "You should get yours soon," Hanalei warned. "I will. I'll ask someone to get it for me," Manau replied. As a local with deep roots, Manau always seemed to have a guy for everything. He asked what time Hanalei was heading into Waikiki. "Probably after 11, Hanalei said. "Okay, are you going to take it tonight?" Maneo's voice dropped slightly. "You mean Eve?" "No, I don't think I need it tonight," Hanalei replied. "I've got extra if you change your mind," Manau offered. "Still have some white dove, top quality stuff like I told you at the bar. It's hard to come by these days. Thanks, but using that every week is a one-way ticket to a depressive crash," Hanalei said, his tone turning parental. He knew Maneo's habits. The guy rarely saw a dance floor without a chemical assist. "I know. I take 5-HTP before and after to counteract it. Do you think I'm an idiot?" Manau snapped, trying to flash his pharmacological knowledge to bridge the gap between them. "Manau, listen. 5-HTP might help restore serotonin, but long-term ecstasy use is a different beast. It's been shown to damage the liver and can literally create functional gaps in the brain. It's not just a mood swing, it's a physiological injury." "I know all that. Please don't lecture me," Manau flared up, his voice cracking with the sudden jagged instability that often followed his weekend binges. "Don't act like you're my big brother." "All right, if you say so. See you later," Hanalei said. He hung up with a bitter smile, staring at the blank white walls of his bedroom. After the call, Hanalei crouched by a moving box, digging through the layers of his past until he found a book on Polynesian tattoos. He had used it years ago to design a piece for Kevin, and as he pulled several volumes out, a small framed photo slipped from between the pages. He stared at it, frozen. The image was 5 years old, a relic from Burning Man in the Nevada desert. In it, he and Kevin were shirtless and glowing, their smiles wide and unburdened in front of a massive, roaring bonfire. The heat of that night seemed to radiate from the paper. Slowly, he placed the photo on the kitchen counter next to a small, white ceramic urn. Kevin's ashes were right there, contained in that silent vessel. Hanalei knew he would have to scatter them someday, to let the wind or the sea take what remained. But he couldn't bring himself to choose a place. He wasn't ready to let go of the weight. To steady his hands and quiet the rising tide of grief, he took a small pipe from his desk, packed a bud of pakālau, and took a light puff. He needed the haze to act as a buffer against memories that felt too sharp to touch. Returning to the box, he found a body paint kit, the same one they had used to decorate each other's skin in the desert. He pulled out a bottle of fluorescent white. On his deep tan, a black design would vanish, but white would glow like bone under a black light. He opened the tattoo book, tracing the patterns with his fingers. Polynesian designs, kākau, were fundamentally different from the intricate, colorful layers of Japanese irezumi. They were dynamic and primal, built from bold geometric lines and stylized representations of sharks, shells, and spearheads. They felt like a language of power and protection. Hanalei had always toyed with the idea of a permanent tattoo, but never fully committed. Kevin had been the daring one. 5 years ago, he had asked Hanalei to create something original for him. Hanalei had spent weeks studying the traditional patterns, eventually designing a custom armband for Kevin's right upper arm, a mark of their bond that had eventually been consumed by the fire, leaving only the ashes in the white jar. Now, alone in his sterile apartment, Hanalei dipped a sponge brush into the white paint and began to recreate those lines on his own skin, turning his arm into a living memorial for the night ahead. After finishing the white patterns on his left arm, Hanalei allowed the design to bleed across his body, tracing a path from his shoulder down toward his right hip, and then again from his left thigh down to the ankle. The work was meditative. He lost himself in the rhythm of the lines, the fluorescent white ink standing out in sharp, ghostly contrast against his dark skin. It wasn't just decoration, it felt like a protective armor, a way to reclaim his body from the emptiness of the apartment. Checking the clock, he realized with a jolt that Jim would be arriving soon. He hurried to the bathroom and taped a page from the tattoo book directly onto the mirror. This was the most difficult part. As he began to apply the paint to his face, his brain struggled with the reversed movements of the mirror. Every stroke required a focused, deliberate effort to ensure the symmetry of the tribal patterns. Slowly, the right side of his face was transformed. The white lines curved around his eye and down his jawline, following the natural contours of his bone structure. By the time he added the final intricate details, he looked like a warrior from another era, his modern self submerged beneath the weight of the ancient symbols. Meanwhile, Jim was already in motion. He had transformed into a striking figure, wearing a black Native American choker tied against his throat and a magnificent headdress. The large blue macaw feathers caught the wind, flowing from his forehead down to his shoulders like a vibrant cape. He steered the red convertible out of Ala Moana and merged onto the H1 highway, heading east toward the affluent curves of Kāhala. The engine roared as he picked up speed, the blue feathers dancing in the rearview mirror. He reached for his phone and dialed Hanalei, the excitement for the tribal night finally reaching its peak. "Hello, gorgeous. Are you ready for the party?" Jim's voice crackled over the phone just as Hanalei was putting the finishing touches on his transformation. "Pretty much ready," Hanalei replied, turning his head to catch the light on the white patterns. He barely recognized the man in the mirror. When Jim's red convertible pulled up to the entrance and swung into a sharp U-turn, Hanalei stepped out from the shadows of the condo doorway. The overhead streetlights hit the fluorescent paint, making the white lines seem to float inches off his skin. "Oh my God, you scared me." Jim jumped, his blue macaw feathers shivering as he stared at Hanalei, shirtless, marked, and ethereal. "I couldn't reach my right arm or my back," Hanalei said with a wink and a short laugh, the tension of the afternoon finally breaking. "That's so artistic. Next time, you have to do me too." Jim's eyes were wide with genuine admiration. Anyone would be struck by the sight. Hanalei looked less like a graphic designer and more like a spirit conjured from the reef. Sure, it's easy. Just let me know. With your physique, it'll look even better, Hanalei said. He moved with a new feline grace as he slid into the passenger seat. As they sped toward Diamond Head, the world outside was bathed in an eerie, silver glow. Above them, the moon was a massive, luminous pearl hanging in the black velvet sky. It's a full moon tonight, Hanalei remarked, tilting his head back to watch it. It's a beautiful night. With the moon shining this brightly, people might go crazy tonight. Jim's voice had a jagged, electric edge to it that made Hanalei look over. You sound like you're already high. Did you take something? Jim glanced at him, a manic happiness in his eyes. You'll take it too, right? I took half already. I'll drop the other half around midnight. Hanalei admitted he had smoked some Kāhala to steady his nerves while painting. Jim smiled, satisfied, and began rummaging through the tight pocket of his jeans. He pulled out a small plastic bag and pressed it into Hanalei's palm. What is it? Hanalei asked. Blue dolphin, Jim replied. Hanalei held the small cobalt-blue pill up to the moonlight. A tiny, perfect dolphin was etched into the surface. Wow, it really is a dolphin. It's yours, Jim said casually. Hanalei hesitated. He thought of his lecture to Macaw, the warnings about serotonin and brain chemistry. But Jim just laughed, the blue feathers of his headdress dancing in the wind. Just take it. You'll be fine. You'll be jumping and dancing like a dolphin. You'll have the best time of your life. Just for tonight, Hanalei thought. It was the classic justification, the lie every person tells themselves at the edge of the deep. He brought the pill to his mouth and bit down. The chemical bitterness flooded his tongue, sharp and medicinal, causing his face to twist in a grimace before he swallowed it down. That's bitter. Jim saw the look on his face and let out a triumphant shout, looking up at the sky. Tonight is going to be fun. Jim swapped the radio for a CD, and the heavy, humid beats of a Tracy Young set exploded from the speakers. The tribal rhythm, drums like heartbeats, chanting like a fever, filled the car as they raced through the silver night. The full moon was doing its work, and the magical, dangerous pull of the night had only just begun. To be continued. Swim and listen to the historical gay drama in the center of the Pacific. We are releasing a brand new episode every single day until the epic conclusion of the story. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 15 to 45-minute hit of cinematic historical drama set in the tropical islands of Hawaii, the perfect daily plunge into the shattered world a millennium after 9/11. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full novel now. Bookmark Blue Dolphins. The Novel Playlist, A Great Argead Saga, Alexine, Volume 1. Talesius Playlist, Volume 2, Sacred Band Playlist, and Divine Oracle. Unwritten words behind my novel playlist. Subscribe to follow the waves and currents of Forbidden Paradise love tales. Comment below.